Imagine waking up at 3 in the morning, heart racing just a little, with that strange, dry feeling in your mouth that no amount of water seems to fix. You stumble to the bathroom, feel slightly dizzy, and chalk it up to just getting older. You go back to bed and don't think twice about it. But here's what nobody told you, and what most doctors don't bring up during a routine visit. Those nighttime symptoms might not be about aging at all. They could be your body sending out a quiet alarm, a signal that something you ate just a few hours before falling asleep is silently pushing your blood sugar into dangerous territory while you rest. And the terrifying part? The foods responsible are not the ones you'd expect. Most people over 60 assume they're doing everything right. They've cut back on soda, they avoid obvious sugar, they try to eat their vegetables. But there are 7 very specific foods that seem completely harmless, foods that millions of Americans eat every single night before bed, that are secretly working against you after dark. And the damage they cause doesn't always show up as a high number on a glucose meter. Sometimes it shows up as poor sleep, unexplained fatigue the next morning, stubborn belly weight that won't budge, or that brain fog that makes you feel like you're moving through thick mud by noon. These are not random. These are symptoms with a cause. And today, we're going to talk about exactly what that cause might be. Before we go any further, if this kind of real, practical health information matters to you, if you want to know the things that your body is doing when you're not paying attention, please take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to Dr.Selric. We put out honest, science-backed content designed specifically for people over 60 who want to feel better, live longer, and actually understand what's happening inside their own bodies. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss something that could genuinely change your health. Now let's get into what you came here for. Here's something that completely changes the way you should think about evening eating. After the age of 60, your body handles blood sugar in a fundamentally different way than it did when you were 30 or 40. Your insulin sensitivity drops. Your pancreas doesn't respond as quickly. Your liver, which normally acts as a kind of traffic controller for glucose in your blood, starts to lose some of its precision. And all of that means that the same snack that your body handled effortlessly at 40 can now create a 3-hour blood sugar spike that quietly wreaks havoc on your blood vessels, your sleep quality, your hormone balance, and even your brain, all while you're fast asleep and completely unaware. What makes nighttime blood sugar spikes especially dangerous for people over 60 is that they don't happen in isolation. When blood sugar rises sharply at night, your body releases a surge of insulin to bring it back down. That surge can push your blood sugar too low by the early hours of the morning, causing something researchers call reactive hypoglycemia. Your body then triggers a stress response, releasing cortisol and adrenaline to push blood sugar back up. That's often what wakes people up at 3 or 4 in the morning with no obvious reason. It's not insomnia. It's your body fighting a battle you accidentally started with what you ate before bed. And over time, this repeated nightly cycle, spike, crash, spike again, quietly damages the walls of your blood vessels, contributes to inflammation throughout your body, disrupts your sleep architecture so you never fully reach deep restorative sleep, and steadily pushes you toward prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, even if your morning fasting numbers look okay to your doctor. This is one of the most overlooked health problems in Americans over 60, and it often goes undetected for years because the signs are so easy to explain away. Now here is where it gets eye-opening. The 7 foods we're about to go through are not candy bars and sodas. Those are obvious. The foods we're talking about are the ones sitting in your kitchen right now that feel healthy, or at least harmless. The ones you've been eating your whole life. The ones you probably had last night. And once you understand why they're problematic specifically after dark, specifically for an aging body, you will never look at your evening routine the same way again. Let's start with something that almost every American household has. White bread, or anything made from refined white flour. Crackers, toast, biscuits, dinner rolls. These feel light and innocent, especially at night when you just want something small. But here's what's really happening when you eat refined white flour in the evening. The fiber has been stripped away during processing. What's left is essentially pure starch, and your digestive system breaks it down almost instantly into glucose. The glycemic index of white bread is extraordinarily high, comparable in some studies to eating straight table sugar. And because you're eating it at night, when your body's insulin response is already slower and less efficient, that glucose has nowhere to go. It floods your bloodstream. Your blood sugar spikes sharply, and all of this happens within 20 to 30 minutes of taking your first bite. What makes this worse is that most people don't eat white bread alone. They have it with something: butter, cheese, peanut butter, things that add fat. And here's the hidden danger of mixing fast-digesting carbohydrates with fat at night. The fat slows digestion just enough to extend the blood sugar rise over a longer period, meaning instead of a quick spike that resolves in an hour, you get a prolonged elevated blood sugar that stays elevated well into the night. For someone over 60 whose kidneys and blood vessels are already more vulnerable to the effects of sustained high glucose, this is a quiet and steady form of damage that accumulates night after night. Now let's talk about something that will genuinely surprise you: rice. Specifically white rice eaten in the evening. Rice is a staple food all over the world, and in many cultures it's considered perfectly healthy. And it can be. But timing matters enormously, and most people have no idea how dramatically the glycemic response to white rice changes based on when you eat it. Research published in nutritional metabolism journals has shown that eating high glycemic foods in the evening causes a significantly larger and longer-lasting blood sugar spike compared to eating the same food in the morning. This is because your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock, controls insulin sensitivity. By evening, especially after 8 o'clock, your cells are naturally less responsive to insulin. So the same cup of white rice that your body handled reasonably well at lunch can become a blood sugar bomb at 10 o'clock at night. What often happens is that people over 60 have a habit of eating a full dinner with rice and then feeling a little hungry again before bed, so they have just a small extra serving. That seemingly innocent second helping arrives in your bloodstream right as your insulin sensitivity is at its lowest point of the entire day. And for people who are already pre-diabetic or borderline, and studies estimate that nearly half of all Americans over 60 fall into that category, this pattern can tip the balance in a very dangerous direction without a single obvious symptom appearing for months. This next one genuinely shocks people: fruit juice. Even 100% natural, no sugar added, fresh squeezed fruit juice. People reach for it as a healthy option, especially when they want something sweet in the evening that doesn't feel like dessert. But here's the problem that almost nobody talks about. When you eat a whole piece of fruit, the fiber inside that fruit slows down how quickly the natural sugars are absorbed into your bloodstream. The fiber essentially acts as a brake. But when you juice that fruit, you remove the fiber entirely. What's left is concentrated natural sugar in liquid form, and liquid sugar hits your bloodstream faster than almost anything else you can consume. A single 8-ounce glass of orange juice contains roughly 26 grams of sugar with essentially no fiber, no fat, and no protein to slow its absorption. Drink that at 9 o'clock at night and you've just given your blood sugar a running start right before your body enters its least insulin-sensitive hours. This is one of those myths that really needs to be corrected, because so many well-meaning people are doing this. They avoid soda, and that's genuinely good, but they replace it with fruit juice thinking they've made a healthy swap. At night, for someone over 60, that swap may actually be making things worse. The better option, if you want something sweet before bed, is a small handful of whole berries or a few slices of apple. The fiber changes everything. Let's move into something that catches people completely off guard, and that's flavored yogurt. Regular yogurt, especially plain Greek yogurt, has a lot of genuine health benefits. But the flavored versions, the ones with fruit at the bottom, the ones that come in strawberry or vanilla or peach, these are often loaded with added sugars that rival dessert. A single serving of flavored yogurt can contain anywhere from 20 to 32 grams of added sugar. And because yogurt feels light and healthy and even virtuous, people eat it as a nighttime snack without a second thought. The combination of that much sugar with a relatively fast-digesting dairy base means your blood sugar can spike substantially within 30 to 45 minutes of eating it. For someone over 60, there's an additional layer of concern here. The gut microbiome, which plays a crucial role in regulating blood sugar responses, changes significantly with age. The beneficial bacteria that help manage glucose metabolism become less numerous and less diverse. This means that the same flavored yogurt affecting two people differently, one in their 30s and one in their 60s, is not just anecdotal, it's biologically documented. The older gut is less equipped to buffer the impact of that sugar surge, and the downstream effects on blood vessels, nerve tissue, and sleep quality are more pronounced and longer lasting. Now here's one that will genuinely make you pause next time you're reaching for your evening snack. Crackers. Specifically the kind that are marketed as healthy. Whole wheat crackers, multigrain crackers, low-fat crackers. These sit in nearly every American pantry and feel like a responsible choice. But turn that box around and read the ingredients label. In most commercial crackers, even the ones with health-sounding names, refined flour is the primary ingredient. The whole wheat or multigrain label can legally appear on the box even if the majority of the flour used is refined. And on top of that, many crackers contain added sugars and refined vegetable oils that contribute to inflammation. The specific danger of crackers at night is how easy they are to overeat. They're small, they're crunchy. They pair naturally with cheese or peanut butter or hummus. And before you know it, you've consumed far more carbohydrates than you intended, all arriving in your bloodstream within a narrow window right before your body enters its least metabolically efficient period. Researchers studying nighttime eating patterns in older adults have consistently found that unconscious oversnacking of crunchy, salty foods like crackers is one of the most common contributors to elevated fasting blood sugar levels the following morning. The kicker is that most people never connect the morning number to what they ate the night before. The next food on this list is one that might genuinely feel like a betrayal because it's been called a superfood for years. Bananas. Specifically ripe bananas eaten in the evening. Now, bananas do contain potassium and other valuable nutrients. Eating a banana in the morning is a very different metabolic event than eating one at night. As a banana ripens, its resistant starch converts into simple sugars, specifically fructose and glucose, and the glycemic index climbs substantially. A very ripe banana can have a glycemic index comparable to many processed snacks. Eat that at night when your insulin sensitivity is diminished and your body is preparing for sleep rather than activity, and you've created a significant glucose load with no physical movement to help clear it from the bloodstream. There's a very common piece of advice that has circulated for decades telling people that a banana before bed is a great idea because it contains magnesium and tryptophan that can help with sleep. And there is a grain of truth in there. But the blood sugar cost of that banana, particularly for someone over 60 with already compromised insulin sensitivity, can completely undercut whatever sleep benefit the nutrients might theoretically provide. The result is often that broken, restless, unsatisfying sleep, the kind where you wake up feeling more tired than when you went to bed, and blood sugar dysregulation quietly building in the background. We're coming up on the final two foods, and these are probably the most common nighttime habits in America. If you're watching this right now, there is a very high probability that you or someone you love does one or both of these things regularly. Please share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the information coming up is exactly what most doctors don't take the time to explain during a standard appointment. The conversation they should be having with every patient over 60 simply isn't happening often enough. And at Dr.Selric, that gap in honest health education is exactly why we exist. The sixth food is cold cereal. This is the late-night habit of millions of Americans, and it feels almost nostalgic, a small bowl of cereal before bed, just like childhood. But even cereals that are marketed as healthy, high-fiber, or heart-healthy can be extraordinarily problematic at night. The processing involved in creating most breakfast cereals, even the ones with impressive claims on the front of the box, breaks down the natural structure of the grain to such a degree that the carbohydrates are digested and absorbed almost immediately. Even many granola varieties, which feel wholesome and substantial, are bound together with honey, corn syrup, or other sweeteners that drive blood sugar up quickly. Here's the part that people find most surprising. Studies measuring blood sugar responses to common cereals have found that some popular whole-grain cereals produce a higher glycemic spike than white bread. The structure of the grain has been so thoroughly processed that the fiber, even when present, can no longer slow absorption effectively. And because cereal is typically eaten with milk, which adds lactose, another sugar, the combined blood sugar effect in the evening can be dramatic. For someone over 60, this nightly cereal habit may be one of the single biggest unrecognized contributors to chronically elevated blood sugar and disrupted overnight glucose regulation. And now, the seventh food. This one is deeply embedded in American culture and emotional comfort, and that's exactly what makes it so difficult to hear. Ice cream, or more broadly, any sweet frozen dessert eaten as a nighttime treat. The combination of sugar and saturated fat in ice cream creates what metabolic researchers sometimes describe as a perfect storm for overnight blood sugar dysregulation. The sugar spikes blood glucose rapidly. The fat then delays digestion just enough to extend that elevated state, and the cold temperature of the food triggers a slight stress response in the digestive system, which itself releases a small cortisol signal. And cortisol, as you may know, is one of the primary hormones that drives blood sugar up. For people over 60, the issue with regular evening ice cream consumption goes beyond just the immediate blood sugar spike. Saturated fat consumed at night has been shown in multiple studies to impair insulin receptor function the following day. This means that your body's ability to manage blood sugar the next morning, not just overnight but the entire following day, is subtly compromised by what you ate the night before. This is a compounding effect. Night after night of ice cream before bed doesn't just cause damage in isolation. It creates a rolling pattern of metabolic dysfunction that gradually becomes the new baseline, making it harder and harder for your body to regulate blood sugar efficiently, even when you're doing everything else right. Now, before we talk about what you can actually do about all of this, because this video is not about leaving you with fear and no direction, let's take a moment to address something important. Some of you watching right now are already dealing with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or metabolic syndrome. Some of you have a doctor who has already said that your blood sugar is a little high, or that you need to watch what you eat. And maybe you've tried. Maybe you cut out obvious sugar and made real changes. But if you're still experiencing those unexplained morning symptoms, that fatigue, that stubborn weight, those restless nights, please consider whether one or more of these 7 foods has been quietly undermining your progress. This is not about blame. It's about information. And information is the most powerful health tool that exists. So let's talk about what you can do instead, because there are genuinely satisfying, genuinely delicious things you can eat in the evening that will not cause blood sugar problems, and some of them will actually help stabilize your glucose overnight and support the kind of deep, restorative sleep that your body desperately needs. If you're genuinely hungry in the evening, the key is to pair a small amount of protein with a very modest amount of healthy fat. A small handful of raw almonds or walnuts, a couple of tablespoons of natural almond butter on a few celery sticks, a small amount of cottage cheese with a few whole strawberries, a hard-boiled egg, a small slice of turkey or chicken. What these options have in common is that they produce little to no glycemic response. They provide sustained satiety so you don't wake up hungry at 3 in the morning, and they actually support overnight blood sugar stability rather than disrupting it. One of the most powerful and completely underappreciated tools for managing nighttime blood sugar after 60 is a short, gentle walk after your evening meal. Not a strenuous workout, not a mile run, just 10 to 15 minutes of easy walking within an hour of eating dinner. Research has shown consistently that this simple habit can reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by 20 to 30%. The muscle contractions during walking allow your cells to absorb glucose without needing insulin, a process called non-insulin-mediated glucose uptake, and this is especially valuable for older adults whose insulin response has slowed. A 10-minute walk after dinner is genuinely one of the most evidence-backed, most accessible, most powerful things a person over 60 can do for their metabolic health. And almost nobody does it. There's also something remarkable about cinnamon that deserves a mention here. Studies have shown that consuming even a half teaspoon of true cinnamon, not the decorative kind but Ceylon cinnamon, with an evening meal or as part of an herbal tea before bed can measurably improve insulin sensitivity and help lower post-meal blood sugar responses. It works by slowing the rate at which food empties from your stomach and by improving how effectively your cells respond to insulin. It's not a cure, and it's not a replacement for real dietary change. But it's a gentle, natural, deeply accessible addition to an evening routine that can make a real difference over time. Hydration is another piece of this puzzle that almost never gets discussed in the context of nighttime blood sugar. When you're mildly dehydrated, which is extremely common in older adults who have a diminished thirst sensation and often go hours without drinking water, your blood becomes more concentrated, which effectively raises the concentration of glucose in your bloodstream without you eating a single extra gram of sugar. Drinking a full glass of water before bed and making sure you've been adequately hydrated throughout the afternoon and evening is a simple and completely free intervention that can have a meaningful impact on your overnight blood glucose levels. Sleep itself is a metabolic intervention. People don't think of it that way, but the quality and duration of your sleep directly and immediately affects your insulin sensitivity the following day. Just one night of poor sleep, under 6 hours, or fragmented sleep with many awakenings, has been shown to reduce insulin sensitivity the following morning by as much as 25%. This creates a vicious cycle, because the foods we've discussed tonight cause poor sleep, and that poor sleep then makes your blood sugar harder to manage the following day, which leads to cravings for more quick energy foods, which leads to more blood sugar disruption, which leads to more poor sleep. Breaking that cycle begins at night, before you fall asleep, with the choices you make in your kitchen. One thing worth acknowledging here is that change is hard. Habits formed over decades don't disappear because you watched one video. Evening snacking is often tied to emotion, to comfort, to routine, to the feeling of winding down and rewarding yourself after a long day. That psychological component is real, and it matters. So rather than trying to eliminate every evening snack at once, consider making one replacement this week. Just one. Swap the crackers for a small handful of almonds. Swap the flavored yogurt for plain Greek yogurt with a few berries. Swap the glass of juice for a glass of water with a slice of lemon. Small, consistent changes in the evening compound over time into enormous differences in your metabolic health, your energy levels, your sleep quality, and your long-term risk for diabetes and heart disease. If you have a family member, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, who is over 60 and who regularly eats any of the 7 foods we talked about today, please consider sharing this video with them. Not to alarm them, but because information shared with love is one of the most caring things one person can do for another. The habits driving silent blood sugar problems in people over 60 are often decades old, completely normalized, and completely unknown to the person living with them. A single conversation, or a shared video, can genuinely change a life. We want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed any of these symptoms? The night waking, the morning fatigue, the brain fog, without knowing the cause? Have you already made changes to your evening eating and seen results? Or are you surprised by any of the foods on this list today? Drop a comment below right now and tell us your experience. Your story matters, and it might be exactly what another viewer needs to read to finally take that first step toward change. This community thrives on real people sharing real experiences, and every single comment helps someone else feel less alone in their health journey. Your body is not failing you, it is communicating with you. The nighttime symptoms so many people over 60 experience, the restless sleep, the morning heaviness, the quiet accumulation of metabolic wear, these are not inevitable. They are not just aging, they are signals. And you now have the knowledge to understand what those signals mean and what to do about them. You deserve to feel good. You deserve clear energy in the morning, restful sleep at night, and a body that feels like it's working with you rather than against you. That's not a fantasy. That's what your body is genuinely capable of when you give it the right conditions to thrive. Take care of yourself tonight. Make one small change. And remember, the most powerful moment in any health journey is not the dramatic overhaul. It's the quiet decision, made on an ordinary evening, to do something a little differently. That decision, made consistently, is how lives actually change.